Let's bring in Bishop Garrison, co-founder of the Joseph Rainey Center for Public Policy, and Republican strategist Brian Darling, founder and president of Liberty Government Affairs. Hey guys, good Sunday morning to you. Let's get into this here because, Bishop, I'm curious what you're hearing from Americans, how they view all this feuding, the diverging messages, essentially the gridlock in Washington.
Good morning, Alex. Thank you for the question. Ultimately, what we're saying here is, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of feedback in my earpiece, so it's a little bit distracting. But ultimately, what we're saying here is that the American people, they care a great deal about immigration overall. They care about the policies that are really going to help us have some type of humanitarian aspect, some type of empathy to what needs to happen in with these immigrants, with these migrants, and having a good understanding of what Congress can do and the bipartisan efforts that congressmen want to actually have across the board is incredibly important. They want to see action. They want to see something that is actually going to change what's happening across the board. And right now, they're just not seeing it.
Can you give me on a scale of 1 to 10, Brian, how frustrated do you think Americans are with this infighting, the failure of Congress to get things done, generally speaking?
I would say 11. I think that when you look at the American people's poll numbers of Congress, they're always low, whether it be Republicans, Democrats controlling Congress. And I think part of it is because Congress has not been doing very much for a long period of time. We have not seen Republicans and Democrats sit down together and work out their differences. So both parties share quite a bit of blame for this, and I think that the American people have a healthy distrust of the swamp in Washington, D.C.
Listen, I do remember the 111th Congress, and it was the moniker was the do-nothing Congress. I mean, do you agree, Bishop, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is about an 11 in terms of frustration?
I absolutely would agree with that. Thank you.
Let's stop right there because you guys agreed on something. I want to ask you, Bishop, about something in terms of the gridlock in Washington. Is it driven, do you think, by a hesitation to give the president and Republicans a win?
I think to some degree, I think a part of this is you have a president that is doing a lot of things that cross norms that we have never seen in any type of administration previously. And you're seeing a lot of members of Congress that are having issues trying to determine how to move forward from that. Every day the president says or does something new that is against a lot of ideas of what we've had from the presidency in our society today. And it's causing problems for congressmen and women to understand how they should move forward with a lot of these different issues. He changes his mind across the board through a tweet. How do you actually legislate from that type of leadership?
Look, that is a challenge for sure. But Brian, when it comes to the Republicans, they can probably agree that Democrats don't want to give them a political victory. But aren't there those Democrats as well who are looking purely for political victory in siding with the president? They do not always agree with either his ideology or his tactics.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, you look at I think many Democrats don't want to give him a victory in anything, no matter what. It doesn't matter the issue. Obviously, there are quite a few Democrats and Republicans working together on issues. They're trying to get infrastructure across the finish line. There's some consensus on cannabis reform and how the states will treat marijuana laws. There are some issues where there is common ground, but the problem is they aren't going to get to the president's desk because you have the Democrats in the House doing their investigations, their impeachment investigations, and then the Senate's not going to pass anything that comes over from the House that is deemed partisan. And you have gridlock. You have a situation where Congress isn't going to do anything, and the only way it's going to be resolved is if the American people next fall make a change one way or the other.
And what if that change would involve Mitch McConnell to some degree? Because heading into 2020, Democrats are looking to cast a lot of blame on McConnell for this year's lack of legislative process. And this is according to an article in The Hill, which reads, by casting McConnell as the face of Washington gridlock, Democrats hope to portray the entire GOP as uninterested in governing at the expense of the middle class. How damaging could this be? Bishop and Brian, both you guys first. Bishop, you first.
Sure. Well, we kind of hit on Mitch McConnell last week as well, and saying that a lot of what he has done is just beyond the pale. When you look at the gridlock he has personally created within Washington, D.C. with a lot of his leadership decisions, it's going to be a great part of his legacy. I don't think we ultimately get anything completely done or accomplished within the Senate until we have new leadership, and Mitch McConnell has to go.
Brian, your comment?
Well, Nancy Pelosi in private meetings is saying she wants to see the president locked up in jail. So I don't think either leader of either party is going to be reaching across the aisle to try and get something done. We're seeing a partisan Washington, D.C. Both sides are dug in, and this ultimately will be resolved by the American people, because right now, if you look at the House and the Senate, and if we have the same mix of the House and the Senate going into the next year, nothing's going to happen in the next
But Brian,
Congress
the Speaker isn't actually calling for impeachment herself right now. She's saying that she doesn't want to deal with that. And what we've seen from Mitch McConnell is actual actionable actions that have created gridlock here in D.C. Like, we have not seen that from Nancy Pelosi. You have a House that's passed more bills than you've seen in recent times. The House is trying to move things forward, but the Senate is not allowing it.
But the House's bills are all messaging bills. They pass them knowing the Senate won't pass gun control. They know they're not going to pass these extreme left-wing
But that doesn't mean the
policies.
Senate shouldn't do it. That's not on the House that the Senate won't move these bills forward. The House is trying to provide the leadership Americans want, and the Senate's not allowing it.
Now, the House wants to send bills to the Senate, have the Senate pass bills, and they want the president to veto it so they can have political issues. This is 100% politics by both sides.
The Senate could absolutely pass it. The president could sign it. The president doesn't want to do that, and that's the issue. That's the problem here.
You know, we had agreement at the number 11, but there we went. All right, Bishop and Brian, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.